And let me tell you how I actually became a friend of Mickey Mantle's. Growing up, I loved the St. Louis Cardinals, as I've told you before, Bob Gibson, Lou Brock, because we got all their games clear as a bell on radio in Oklahoma City, thanks to 50,000 watt KMOX out of St. Louis. But the one Yankee I rooted for was Mickey Mantle, because he was from a little town up in the very northeast corner of my home state, Oklahoma, called Commerce. It was near Joplin, where my father was actually born, Joplin, Missouri. Mickey Mantle, magical mystique, switch-hitting, power-hitting center fielder who was the fastest man in baseball from the left-handed batter's box to first base. Mickey Mantle, all-time greatest switch hitter, 3 MVPs, Triple Crown 1956, 12 World Series, 7 rings. Still to this day has hit the most home runs and had the most runs batted in total World Series. If only he hadn't wrecked his knee running through the outfield in a World Series against the Brooklyn Dodgers at age 19. He wrecked his knee and he was never quite the same, but he was still Mickey Mantle. You want to talk about a 5-tool superstar? The Mick, as they called him, had a 6th and a 7th tool. He had that name, coolest name ever, and he had Yankee pinstripes. That's why his 1952 Topps baseball card recently obliterated the all-time auction record, going for $12.6 million. And I can tell you, Mickey Mantle, had he still been alive, would have been flabbergasted by that amount. Trust me on this. Mickey Mantle could never understand why so many people made such a big deal about him being able to hit a baseball, and it just ate him alive. So how did I meet Mick? My first year in Dallas. I mentioned it before. I did manage to win Texas Sports Writer of the Year. It was awarded by the National Sports Writers and Sportscasters Association, which was based in Salisbury, North Carolina. So I traveled to Salisbury to receive my award in April, just ahead of covering my first Masters in Augusta, Georgia. I knew Mickey lived in Dallas, but I'd never met him, never crossed his path, had no idea that he was about to be the keynote speaker that night in Salisbury as I received my award. So before that awards presentation at Catawba College, all the honorees, all the award winners were required to attend, I don't know, one of maybe 15 or 20 cocktail parties around Salisbury at the stunning homes of NSSA patrons. Little did I know, Mickey was assigned to the same mansion cocktail party that I was. At that point, the last thing Mickey needed was another drink. His battles with alcoholism had become part of his legend. So there I was in suit and tie in a group of, I don't know, 8 or 10 people, living room of said mansion, trying to make small talk about the Cowboys or maybe the Masters. Up walked Mickey Mantle, drunk as a skunk, and without introduction, Mickey Mantle, with a huge smile, said to me, "You write some weird shit." That's what he said to me. "You write some weird shit." And I couldn't help but laughing and saying, "Thank you," because I'm pretty sure Mickey Mantle was trying to pay me a compliment in only his way. Everybody laughed, maybe a little nervously, and Mickey and I began to talk, and Mickey and I hit it off. Then a couple hours later, I had to watch from the audience as Mickey Mantle tried and failed to deliver his keynote speech. He kept losing his place. It got harder and harder to watch till finally the MC for the night had to go up, take him by the arm, and escort him away from the podium, much to the horror and the pity of the many Mantle worshipers in the audience that night, including me. Still, even as he was escorted away, we all gave him an ovation, some of us standing, because he had given us so many magical Mickey Mantle moments. When I got back to Dallas, I left a message for Mickey at Preston Trails Golf Club where he hung out. I'd heard all the stories about how Mickey and his buddies sometimes played golf naked at Preston Trails. Very private club enclosed by very tall trees, but they played golf naked while intoxicated. Heck, I knew all the stories because, believe it or not, well, first of all, as a senior in high school, I had read the breakthrough bombshell book by Jim Bouton, one of his former Yankee teammates, called Ball 4, a tell-all, maybe the first ever tell-all. Actually inspired me to pursue this business. And also, believe it or not, at the time I met Mickey, I had also become friends with his longtime mistress. They weren't together at this point, but she happened to live in my little condo cluster in Dallas. And she had told me many, many stories of Mickey's alcohol-fueled escapades. Mickey was 20 years older than me at this point, and I must admit, I saw some of my alcoholic father in Mickey, and I felt for him. Mickey called me back from Preston Trail Golf Club, and I told him I'd like to interview him. And he invited me over to his house, which was a shockingly modest little 3-bedroom house in North Dallas. We sat and talked about baseball and more about life, alcohol abuse, for maybe, 4 hours it seemed like. And we did stay in touch. And in December of 1985, Roger Maris, his Yankee teammate, passed away, and the Dallas Times-Herald I was working for sent me up to Fargo, North Dakota to write about Roger's funeral. All the Yankee greats attended, Whitey Ford, Moose Scourin, Bobby Richardson, on, but the most famous of all was Mickey Mantle, far more famous than the other half of the M&M boys, as they were called, Roger Maris. Obviously, Maris's claim to fame was that he passed Babe Ruth. He had 61 homers in 1961. But obviously, Mickey Mantle was the far better hitter and player. So at the Holiday Inn that was serving as sort of the headquarters in Fargo, all the Yankee greats were staying there. I waved to Mickey Mantle in a cordoned off section, the back of the hotel for family and friends, and he waved me inside the ropes. And we sat in the corner, and he cried and cried and cried about he deserved to die before Roger Maris died at just 51 of lymphoma. Mickey went on and on and on about how he had never taken care of himself the way Roger took care of himself, how he, Mickey, had never been the family man that Roger had been through thick and thin. Mickey went on and on about how he had squandered so much of his talent while Roger had maximized his. Mickey just sobbed and kept asking me, why him? tried to console him, tried to comfort him. And to his credit, Mickey Mantle, over the next few years, did get sober. I'm pretty sure through the discussions I had with him that he did get right with God. He was a little better father, I think, to his 4 sons. Mickey died at 63. That was 10 years after Roger Maris passed. Just believe me on this. Mickey Mantle was a good man who could just never get comfortable with being Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle, the player, I held in the utmost awe when I was a little kid. But the Mickey I got to know was astonishingly human. I've gotten to know many, many superstars in my time. You and I worship a lot of them. But always, always, there's just one common denominator. Every last one of them is so vulnerably, painfully, often quietly human. All of them wondering deep, deep down how they got so lucky to be able to play a sport better than just about anybody else on this planet. Here's hoping that Aaron Judge, now passing Maris and becoming a true Yankee legend, will be able to live with forever being known as the man who broke Roger Maris's record. I hope you enjoyed that video. You ready for more? Make sure you click that subscribe button for all the exclusive content from the Skip Bayless Show. And don't forget to check out the full episode of the show wherever you get your podcasts by clicking the link in the description.